What $2,500 in XLM will be worth by the end of 2025. Price prediction. What if I told you that putting $2,500 into Stellar XLM today could turn into $10,000, maybe even $100,000 or more by the end of 2025? Sounds crazy? Not when you dig into the numbers, the partnerships, and the real-world use cases already live on the network. This isn't a hype train. We're not chasing moonshots or meme coins. We're following data, institutional activity, and quietly building infrastructure that's already moving billions in value across borders, through regulated rails, and into real people's hands. While crypto Twitter is distracted by pump coins, fake narratives, and short-term noise, Stellar is quietly doing the work. It's executing on utility. It's building partnerships with MoneyGram, onboarding traditional finance through Soroban, and positioning itself as the infrastructure layer for tokenized payments and assets. This isn't a what-if story. It's already happening under the surface. The market just hasn't noticed yet. And that's exactly why this could be one of the most asymmetric bets in all of crypto. Let's break down how far $2,500 in XLM could actually go, and why most people won't see it coming until it's too late. Subscribe to Be Crypto Smart because we track utility, not hype. Most investors ignore XLM because it doesn't shout. It doesn't rely on cult leaders, celebrity tweets, or overpriced NFTs. What it does rely on is this: real-world payment rails, cross-border finance corridors, compliance-first smart contracts, and partnerships that matter. MoneyGram's USDC ramps? Running on Stellar. Tokenized trade finance? Soroban smart contracts. Real corridors across Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia? XLM is the bridge. These aren't testnets or wishful thinking. These are live products, deployed infrastructure, and regulated partners using the Stellar network to solve real problems. It's not about potential utility someday, it's about active utility today. While other networks beg for attention, Stellar builds in silence. It's the silent giant of blockchain, built for regulated money, tokenized assets, and the kind of infrastructure that powers the future of finance. And because it's not trending on Twitter, retail ignores it. That's where the asymmetric opportunity is born. Because when price finally catches up to adoption, it won't move slowly, it'll move violently. And the people who saw it early will be the ones holding strong. How much XLM you get with $2,500? Let's do the math. As of today, Stellar's trading around 13 cents per token. That means a $2,500 investment gets you roughly 19,230 XLM tokens. That's your base. Now ask yourself, what is the real potential of those 19,230 tokens over the next 18 months? At 13 cents, Stellar's market cap is hovering around $3.6 billion. That's a fraction of where it could be if even a handful of its real-world integrations go mainstream. This isn't a layer one hoping for a killer app. Stellar already has one: compliant global payments. It's working now, not in some theoretical roadmap 2 years out. Let's zoom in on 3 real catalysts already playing out in the wild. MoneyGram's Stellar-based USDC integration is scaling globally. That means real people walking into real locations in 180-plus countries and walking out with tokenized dollars on Stellar. No speculation, just adoption. Soroban smart contracts are unlocking a new wave of compliant DeFi, something no other major network is executing this cleanly. That brings tokenized lending, stablecoin issuance, and programmable cross-border settlements, all while checking the boxes for institutional compliance. Tokenized trade finance and remittances are emerging as massive new verticals. These aren't small markets, we're talking about multi-trillion-dollar flows, and Stellar is already laying down the rails in Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. So is 13 cents fair value for all of that? Absolutely not. That price reflects the era before Soroban, before tokenized credit, and before regulated institutions started building on Stellar. It reflects the era when Stellar was still just a payments coin, not the foundation of digital finance infrastructure. Which means your 19,230 XLM tokens aren't just a number, they're leverage. They're your early seat on a network that's moving faster than the market realizes. If any one of these real-world adoption curves inflects, 13 cents will look like a joke in hindsight. And when that happens, most people won't be positioned. But you will be. Conservative versus aggressive price scenarios. Now let's talk numbers. You've got 19,230 XLM tokens. What does that look like under different market scenarios by the end of 2025? Let's start with the conservative case. If Stellar hits just 50 cents, your $2,500 investment becomes $9,615. That's a nearly 4x return, without requiring anything extreme. Just continued growth of Stellar's existing integrations, more traction with Soroban, and a broader crypto market recovery. It doesn't even require Stellar to outperform, just to show up. At $1, which would bring Stellar's market cap to around $27 billion, your 19,230 tokens are worth $19,230. That's a 7.7x return. And remember, $27 billion is still a mid-tier valuation in crypto. It's nowhere near Ethereum's market cap, and far below the frothy highs we've seen from meme coins with no real use case. But here's where it gets interesting. The aggressive case. Let's say Stellar fulfills its vision as a global settlement layer, handling remittances, tokenized assets, trade finance, CBDCs, and stablecoins. Let's say it captures serious attention from governments, banks, and major payment networks. Under that kind of adoption curve, a $2.50 to $5 XLM isn't fantasy, it's math. At $2.50, your holdings are worth $48,075. At $5, you're looking at $96,150, all from a $2,500 position. That would put Stellar's market cap in the $135 to $270 billion range. Sounds high? Not when you consider that this would represent a fraction of the multi-trillion-dollar payments and tokenization industry that Stellar is actively integrating into. And here's the key point. Unlike hype-driven assets, Stellar doesn't need a speculative mania to get there. It just needs utility adoption to continue compounding. The rails are being laid. The partners are onboarding. And the narrative is finally catching up. So whether you're betting on a modest rally or a full-scale breakout, the asymmetric upside is real, and the risk-reward profile is skewed in your favor. Why it's not a fantasy, real use case momentum. Here's what most people miss. XLM isn't some future concept or white paper hype project. It's already solving real-world problems at scale in production with partners that matter. Let's start with Palago Labs. They're not building games or gimmicks. They're tokenizing invoices, receivables, and trade credit using Soroban smart contracts. This isn't speculative DeFi. It's programmable finance tied to actual business operations. We're talking about real-world companies accessing liquidity faster, more transparently, and without needing a bank intermediary. It's DeFi for enterprises, and Stellar is the foundation. Then there's MoneyGram. Through Stellar, MoneyGram has flipped the script on global remittances. People can walk into over 400,000 physical locations in more than 180 countries, load fiat cash, and instantly receive USDC on Stellar, with near zero fees and no need for a traditional bank account. That's real financial inclusion, and it's live right now. No beta, no waiting list. Take Stellar Aid Assist. This isn't theory. It's already delivering humanitarian payouts using USDC on Stellar to people in need, refugees, displaced families, and communities in crisis zones. With built-in transparency, speed, and auditability, NGOs and governments are starting to realize this is how aid distribution should work. It's faster, cheaper, and far more secure than anything built on legacy rails. And then there's ISO 20022 readiness, something most retail investors completely overlook. This standard is the new global language of banking, and Stellar is already compliant. That means Stellar is architected to connect with traditional financial systems, central banks, and real-time settlement networks. It's not trying to replace the banking system, it's integrating with it. All of this is already happening. It's not coming someday, it's here today. But here's the part that makes this such a high upside play. None of it is priced in. The market still treats XLM like it's a niche altcoin from 2017. It's not. It's quietly becoming the backend for global digital value transfer across aid, payments, credit, and compliance. That's the edge. While the crowd chases hype, XLM is executing on substance. And the moment that disconnect snaps back into alignment, price won't just move, it'll catch up fast. What will trigger the next price spike? Let's zoom out for a minute. Everyone wants to know what will make XLM's price explode. But the truth is, it's not just one thing. It's a convergence. And that convergence is coming fast. First, a narrative shift. If the next crypto bull market is driven by speculation and hype, meme coins will pump. But if it's driven by real-world adoption, regulated rails, and utility, Stellar is set to lead. The industry is maturing. Institutions are entering. Governments are watching. That means the winners this time won't be the loudest projects. They'll be the ones solving real problems. And Stellar is already doing that. Second, stablecoin regulation. When the US or other major jurisdictions give a green light to compliant stablecoin rails, especially for cross-border payments, Stellar's entire setup becomes mission-critical. It's already home to USDC, has live MoneyGram integrations, and is built for fiat on off-ramps. It's not a stretch to say it becomes the infrastructure for stablecoin payments globally. Third, tokenized trade finance. This isn't talked about enough, but it could be the sleeping giant. With players like Palago Labs using Stellar's Soroban smart contracts to tokenize receivables, invoices, and business credit, we're witnessing the birth of a multi-trillion-dollar vertical on-chain. As this gains traction, demand for XLM, used for fees, liquidity, and settlement, could skyrocket. Fourth, retail awakening. At some point, the market catches on. The YouTubers, the influencers, the Reddit threads, they start pointing at Stellar not as a sleeping altcoin, but as a real contender. And when that happens, FOMO kicks in hard. By the time headlines are asking, is it too late to buy XLM? The asymmetric opportunity will be gone. Fifth, institutional onboarding. This is the big one. While other chains hope to get regulatory clarity, Stellar has already architected itself around it. From ISO 20022 compatibility to KYC/AML-ready stablecoin flows, XLM is one of the few networks actually ready for banks, fintechs, and large enterprises to build on. Now put this all together. You don't need all 5 catalysts, just 2 or 3. Let's say we get stablecoin regulation plus institutional onboarding. That alone could drive massive capital inflows. Add retail FOMO on top of that, you've got a parabolic setup. This isn't hopium. It's a thesis grounded in execution, positioning, and market timing. XLM's price doesn't just rise slowly in that scenario, it multiplies. And anyone already holding when the shift happens won't just make gains. They'll be early to one of the most overlooked breakout stories in crypto. Will your $2,500 in XLM pay off? So here's the real question. Is putting $2,500 into XLM today actually worth it? Is the upside big enough and the foundation strong enough to justify the risk? If you believe in compliant crypto infrastructure, in the idea that the next wave of blockchain isn't about casino tokens but about real-world finance, if you believe that global payments, trade finance, and stablecoins need scalable, regulated rails to function at scale, if you believe that blockchains solving real problems will be the ones left standing when the hype fades, then yes, XLM is one of the few asymmetric bets left that hasn't already been priced into oblivion. It's still under the radar. It's still overlooked by retail. But the pipes are being laid, the deals are being inked, and the rails are already live. Let's break it down again. If you put in $2,500 today and just hold, at 50 cents, you're sitting on $9,615. At $1.50, that grows to $28,845. If XLM ever reaches $5, you're looking at $96,150. And at $10, it's a staggering $192,300. Those aren't fantasy numbers. They're simply what happens if adoption catches up to utility. And based on everything Stellar is doing, from Soroban smart contracts to global on off-ramps to tokenized business credit, it's no longer a question of if that happens. It's when. Most people will miss it. They'll chase the next meme coin. They'll ignore the quiet builders. But you're not here for noise. You're here for signal. Now it's your move. Subscribe to Be Crypto Smart, where we analyze adoption, not hopium, and utility, not hype cycles.